सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We have in the Bodhasara finished the portion, a very long portion called, what was it called? Elixir of Devotion, Bhakti Rasayanam. Yeah. Then the question arose, what next? Where to go? And I'm losing my bookmark. Hang on a second. I had it somewhere. Here it is. Okay. Where to go? What to study now? The thought came. And I looked at the next section, which is somehow called Raja Yoga. Not just Raja Yoga, something about Raja Yoga. Yeah. So it's called, let me tell you exactly what it's called. He's calling it the Jnana Bhumika, and he has a name for it which is there. I'm not finding it, but it's got an interesting name. Raja Yoga Bhaskaraha or something like that. Illumination of Raja Yoga, something like that. And I'm not sure what this Raja Yoga is, and it is this philosophy is influenced in part by what is written in the Yoga Sutras. So he's following some things about Yoga Sutras which talk about a very elaborate, gradation or an elaborate understanding of knowledge, ignorance, etc. I tried to go through the first section, and for those of us who are not understanding this particular lingo and haven't studied this, it can be very confusing. Because, for example, there is a waking state. Oh, but we know the waking state. Yeah, we know the waking state. But do you know the, Ramagiri, that's the one. Raja Yoge Bhumika Bheda Bhaskaraha. That, which illumines the differences of the nuanced differences within Raja Yoga. And thank you. That's what I was looking for. And so, he says, okay, there is a waking state and there is a seed of the waking state, and then there is a sprout of the waking state, and there is a tree of the waking state. And so for those who are not schooled in these terminologies and imageries, it's better to stay off of that. Okay. So, but the section is intriguing. So we are going to cut and paste and take some excerpts. Okay. Yeah. So I direct your attention to my page 156. And if you don't have the same, first of all, those who are joining us, the text is right here, in the current class text, Bodhasara PDF. You can click on that and you can click download file, and then it will go, and then you can open it. So open it to the section on Raja Yoga, and then, it's not the steps of knowledge. After it's the section after the steps of knowledge. So it's about 2.5 pages down. So it's verse number 10. If the verses are numbered, I don't know how it is in the PDF. 14.1.1. Thank you, Bhanu. Yeah. So if you look at that, it is 14.1.1. I don't know why 14. Actually, it should be 10, but that's okay. Maybe it's a different marking. Maybe I should look at it so that we are on the right. Where it says Atra Prashnaha. Did you get that? Is that where it says Atra Prashnaha, Banu? Yes? No? So let me look at my copy, the English one, and then I will tell you. No, that's not the one I have. Yeah, maybe it's this one. Yeah, so 13. Yeah, 13. Section 13. Yeah, so we go to section 14 and it should be 1410. I think so. According to this, but it is not. Okay, let's go further. Jnana Bhumika. Here it is. 14. Yeah, here it is. So it is Atra Prashnaha 14 to 10. Okay? 14.2.10. Go to that place. And is the PDF, no, not page 21, page 26 in the PDF, about 3/4 way down, 2/3 way down, and it's where it says Atra Prashnaha, and just go by the verse number, it's easier to find, 14.2.10. Okay? And if you're having the book, it's page 172, as Janani pointed out. Okay? Are we on the same page? Yeah, but I don't know what you're following. If you're following the Bodhasara PDF from the writings, from the class text, then it is page 26 and verse number 14 to 10 onwards. Yeah, if you have the book, it's page 172 where it says Atra Prashnaha. Okay? Yeah. So is everybody on the same page? Literally? Yes? Okay. No, PDF, page 26. I don't know if you have a different PDF, if Chandan has a different PDF, but our PDF is page 26, 2/3 way down, where it says Atra Prashnaha, verse 14 to 10. If you have a different PDF, then maybe that's what it is. Yeah, go by the verse number. Just follow the verse number 14.2.10. 14, 2, 10. Okay? Yeah. All right. So, after discussing some steps of knowledge and steps of kinds of knowledge and kinds of ignorance, which I thought would be a little confusing. So, the nice thing about this is we can pick it up and skip and pick it up again. But this section is very nice because it talks about mumukshutvam, and we all know what mumukshutvam is. Moksho me bhuyat iti ichha, mumuksha. So may there be moksha for me iti, in this manner. The desire for moksha is called mumuksha. It's one of those desiderative nouns which are always feminine, san pratyaya, and there is a certain duplication of the of the root much, 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 mumu, mumuch, and the cha becomes ka, and mumuksha. Actually, sometimes it is sa, but then because it has ka there, it becomes mumuksha. Whereas in another word, jignasa, the desire to study, the desire to know, there is sa there. Okay, so like this. So this is how it is formed. And so now here, it's a very interesting section. And the section is talking about how come one learns, how does one become a mumukshu? I mean, consider this. One is living in samsara, steeped in samsara, pickled in the oils of samsara. Oils means because samsara is very sticky and unguent, all, you know, you can't really clean off samsara because you just, you're pickled in it. And then one, the Vedanta says one is born in ignorance. And then ignorance includes ignorance of mumuksha, that I have to seek freedom, one is ignorant. And that the freedom is what I want, one is ignorant. And that is all parts of self-ignorance. So now this interesting exchange is taking place, supposedly between the teacher and the student, we have to say, or between the, between the, in the author's mind itself, and it's presented in the form of a question for sukha pratipatti. Sukha pratipatti means for ease of understanding. For ease of understanding of what? For us. So that we can understand this with ease, it is presented in a question answer form, because those questions are already deep down within all mumukshus. So those that are mumukshus are thinking, how did I become a mumukshu? What happened? It's a surprise. Because, I was going along with my life, and, from movies to malls to balls, I was going, and I was keeping on doing this, work, home, marriage, family, children, this, that. How did I become a mumukshu? And this is a surprise. And then, and sometimes one might be thinking about other people, who are not mumukshus. In one's circle, there may be many non-mumukshus, amumukshavaha, so non-mumukshus, and then looking at the non-mumukshus, you think, how will they ever become mumukshus? And so this is a very interesting thing, because, usually, that's why I like this text so much. The Bodhasara is so beautiful, because usually we are not, the authors, the Vedanta authors are not thinking about how does one become a mumukshu. So they just list off all the sadhanas, you have to have mumuksha, viveka, vairagya, and the six-pack. What is the six-pack? Shamadama, uparati, etc., etc. And then they define each one and then go on. But here, this author kind of silently has tapped into an important question, that, not a question so much, even though it says prashna, but an important area where there is a certain kutuhala, a certain curiosity. How does one ever become a mumukshu? And what transpires? It seems like it's magic. Up till yesterday, the person was doing everything that the people around her or him were doing. He or she was going to work, unconcerned about anything else, thinking that that's all there needs to do, and he or she was raising the family and going on vacation, and then getting tired after going on vacation, and then having a week of staycation. So the person was just going on uninterrupted in their lives without any problems. so to speak. And suddenly the next day, the person is in search of a guru. How did this happen? What happened? And sometimes it is sudden, sometimes it is gradual. Nonetheless, it is still mysterious. And then, so you get a kind of you get impressed by the mind of this, Narahari, talking about how, talking about these kinds of questions. And so let us see the question. The question is in three parts. And so the first three verses, number 10, number 11, and number 12, are articulating the question. Let us see this. You can chant after me. Samsarameva yo vetti मोक्षमार्गं न वेत्ति यः संसारमेव यो वेत्ति मोक्षमार्गं न वेत्ति यः तस्य संसारिणः पूर्वं मुमुक्षा जायते कथम् तस्य संसारिणः पूर्वं मुमुक्षा जायते कथम्. So this is the opening question, very, very powerful, So here is somebody who knows, let us look at the last portion. Let us take the last pada. Mumuksha jayate katham. Mumuksha is moktumicha, the desire for freedom. Jayate is born. Katham, how? How is the desire for freedom born? This is the refrain of all the questions. How is the desire for freedom born? So the desire for freedom, how is it born? This question is not a rhetorical question. It is a real question. How is the desire for freedom ever born when, and the conditions are given in the other, other quartets of this couplet. So the first, the first quarter is samsarameva yahaveti. So it is talking about a person, any person in the society who veti. Veti means knows. What does the person know? Samsaram eva. The person is cognizant only of samsara. So what does the person know? Samsara. So you give them some quizzes, you give them some, question and answers, and they are very good at answering samsaric questions. How do you get from point A to point B? Samsaric means vyavaharik. So transactional reality, they are into it. So, how do you do this? How do you cook this? How do you do that? So this is what they know, and they're not interested in moksha because they don't know anything about moksha. They have no idea what this M for moksha is. They have no idea at all. And so, such a person, samsaram eva veti, moksha margam na veti yaha. So they know only samsara. Marga means the way to moksha. Like there are certain sadhanas, there is chitta shuddhi. I have to be purified in my heart, and then I have to do this, I have to do that, and I have to seek for a teacher, and then having sought the teacher, don't put the teacher in the showcase and then keep looking at the teacher. No, use the teacher and study with the teacher, and and have shraddha. All these things, the person doesn't know. So what does the person know? Samsaram eva. Eva means only samsara the person knows. And what does the person not know? Moksha margam na vetti yaha. So the first yaha and the second yaha, yo is actually yaha. So samsaram eva yaha vetti, moksha margam na vetti yaha. There are not two yahas. There's only one person. There's only one. The one who knows only samsara, and the one who does not know the way to gain moksha. Okay? So it's not two who's, the one who. Actually, it's just the one who. That's the same yaha. So that same person is fulfilling two conditions here. The first condition is what? The one who does not know the way to moksha, but has full knowledge of what? Samsara. Then, tasya, next line, samsarinaha purvam. Samsarinaha purvam means ex-samsari. So this is a person who was a samsari, meaning steeped in samsara, samsaraha, asya astiti samsari. So the person was steeped in samsara and then now became what? Now has some appreciation of moksha and is mumukshu. So the ex-samsari, tasya samsarinaha purvam means ex. So earlier, the one who was a samsari, mumuksha jayate katham, how was this desire for freedom was born for this person steeped in samsara, knowing only samsara and not having any idea of moksha. How is this mumukshu minted in the society? Living in a society that's full of strife, full of a ninja stance of wanting to protect oneself all the time, full of just, offensive and defensive moves. You see the little being at the foot of Lord Dakshinamurti. I've talked about it many times. And this being looks like a small baby. And then you go closer, oh my God, it's a small baby, all right, but it has a big mustache. And then scarier still, it has a shield in one hand and a dagger in the other, a drawn dagger. So, not nice, not a good baby. What is this? Inner child. This is the inner child. That is a truncated adult, and as though adult, but that hasn't grown up, And so, this is the child who is, who is the sum total of all earlier hurts, pains, and sorrows that have not been interrogated, that have not been processed, where the blame is always put on the other person, where there is no internal reflection. And so such a person will always be offensive and defensive. So everybody, who is in samsara and who is not a mumukshu necessarily is offensive and defensive. Maybe some people come across as very calm, but we haven't reached their threshold yet. Everybody has a certain limit, and it's very easy to cross that limit. They may look very calm because things are temporarily going their way, but the moment things don't go their way, they will lose it sooner or later. And lose it means what? Succumb to the affliction as though it were real. Succumb to the affliction, and then if things don't go their way, then all the raga dveshas come out for a big party, and then, whether they party or they have a repartee, I don't know, but then they are having a lot of conversations, and then the person succumbs to samsara. So, this kind of a person living in this kind of a strife, building an arsenal of offense and defense mechanisms, because you don't know when it will come in use. You have to protect yourself, you have to protect your assets, you have to protect your family, you have to protect your house, you have to protect your money from itself, meaning inflation, so you have to keep thinking of new ways of investing it. And the whole thing is about insecurity and protecting yourself against that primal insecurity, which is what is the definition of a samsari. Samsara means, the kshetra or the place where this insecurity is deeply felt and replicated, where? Within. And that place is centered on the I. And then it is reflected without, because that whatever is happening inside is reflected in one's interactions with others. And so if one is feeling insecure, the other person just has to say the sky is blue to set this person off. They will take it personally and they will just feel insulted. It doesn't take much. So how does this samsari or this ex-samsari now become a mumukshu? This is a very interesting question. It kind of reminds me of Arjuna's question in the Bhagavad Gita in a slightly different question in a different context, where at the end of chapter 2, he asks Lord Krishna, how does the jnani, a person who has self-knowledge, how do they become jnanis? And what are their lakshanas? What are their characteristics? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they sit? What do they eat? All these things he wants to know. And so likewise here, the questioner is wanting to say, who is this? How is this mumukshu born? And if this mumukshu is born, how did the samsari become a mumukshu? It's a loaded question. And you know, he's referring to another saying in the in Vedanta Shastra. Brahma, there is a kind of a idiom. I don't know if you encountered it here or not, but it is called Brahmara Kitavat. So Kita means insect, Brahmara means bee. So this is actually an optical illusion, you know. So a bee goes and, you know, picks apparently, or picks up a hapless worm and then keeps on stinging it, stinging it, stinging it, stinging it, stinging it. And then that's all you see. And then after a while you see another bee, a small bee, a baby bee, you know, come out and fly out. So the idea is that being stung by the bee repeatedly and relentlessly, what is happening? The worm, Kita, has become Brahmara. It comes in the Viveka Chudamani. It's not in here. We haven't encountered it. So, Brahmara Kitavat, it is there. And so, now the Kita has become a Brahmara. The worm the insect has become a bee, because the bee, it lived with a bee, and then it was a wannabe bee, and then it was stung by the bee, and then it was, you know, relentlessly stung, and then it flew out, it became a bee. So that's not really what happens. I mean, there's something else going on. I've forgotten the details, but apparently it's trying to make it's trying to make a nest or make a meal for the, whatever it is, for the egg that is to hatch or whatever it is. And so, you know, we think that the bee is the insect, the worm is getting converted into a bee. Really speaking, there is no such conversion happening. This is an optical illusion. Likewise here, the samsari turning into a mumukshu is equally an optical illusion. You know, mumuksha jayate kasmat. How on earth, katham jayate? From where is this mumuksha born? How is this mumuksha born for the one who is a samsari? And in the beginning I said it's not a rhetorical question. Why? Because it is answered, and it is answered in detail, as you will see. But it is a rhetorical, this is the greatness of Narahari. It is a rhetorical question, because really speaking, think about it. If one is a samsari, can one ever become a mumukshu? No, because moksha and samsara are not leading, they are not convergent paths, they are divergent paths. And in fact, they never meet, you know. They are two different paths. But here it is clearly said, the one who knows samsara but doesn't know the path of moksha, how will that person become a moksha? Very interesting question. Because if it is like the insect that has been repeatedly stung, and then after it has been stung, what does it do? It becomes the it becomes the bee. The worm that has been stung becomes the bee, and the samsari that has been stung by samsara becomes a mumukshu. No, if you are a samsari, if one is a samsari, one can never become a mumukshu. If one is a mumukshu, one is not a samsari. So how is this conversion taking place? Huh? How is this conversion taking place? Because this is in the realm of what we call mithya. Mithya means the as though reality. So the person is never, unfree. So the moksha, you don't have to say moksha me bhuyat, let there be moksha for me. You don't have to say. Why? Because you are already mukta. So where is the samsara? Tell me. You're already free. There's no samsara there at all. And if there is no samsara, how can you be a samsari? No. For you, there might not be samsara. For me, there is samsara. No. If there is no samsara for me, then there is no samsara for you also, because the I in me is the I in you. And if the I, the self, is revealed by the Shastras to be Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Atma, that I is Nitya Mukta, always free. And so this always free I, it's a very interesting, question. So the question should not be, how did this person become a mumukshu? I think better yet the question should be transposed to read, how did this, already free mukta purusha become a samsari? Both ways it can operate. So how did the samsari become a mumukshu? Forget that. How did this person who is revealed by the Shastra to be ever free and ever clear of all afflictions become a samsari? Both those are very interesting questions, and both those are mithya. One is as though samsari. No, that's not fair. Why is it not fair? Because how can you be an as though samsari? If you are an as though samsari, then you are an as though mumukshu as well. Correct. You are absolutely right. Don't think I'm favoring mumukshu and then giving the mumukshu the status of satyam, and samsari is mithya but mumukshu is real. Mumukshu is ultimately real. No, both of them are as though. Because if you study the Nirvana Shatkam, it concludes, na guruhu, na shishyaha. There is no guru, there is no shishya, and I'm not a samsari, not a mumukshu, and neither do I want moksha. I'm chidananda rupaha, shivoham. I'm that consciousness that is free of all, that is auspicious, limitless, and free like space. Totally free of the nature of knowledge, and joyful because it is limitless, and on top of this consciousness, so to speak, to put it badly, on top of this consciousness is projected the status of the mumukshu, or rather this consciousness, when it is associated with the status of mumukshu, it is called mumukshu. When it is associated and claims and identifies with the status of being a samsari, it calls itself samsarin. Really? So how is moksha born? How is the desire for moksha born for one that is a samsari? Really speaking, there is for moksha, there is no way. Yeah. What way are you talking about? No. You have to get chama, you have to get tama, you have to get uparati. Yeah, that's an internal way. But really speaking, there is no road saying road to moksha. And then, there is some little, town called moksha and you go and settle there. Happy place. No such thing. Because it's an internal removal. Removal of that which comes in the way of seeing myself as already free. And the removal of that which stops me from seeing myself as free is called self-ignorance. And that is what is removed through self-knowledge. And then when that happens, then it is very clear that I am neither guru nor shishya, nor am I man or woman. I am neither the sum total of my bank balance, nor am I, someone who is, my house, my people. I am neither daughter nor son, nor spouse, nor father, nor mother. I simply am. And that am, that isness or that amness is associated with the creator of the universe. So this is the secret here, because both those statuses are mithya. That I am a samsari, oh my God, that's terrible. That's in other words, it's my own perception. It's a misperception. And this misperception that I am a samsari, that I am an idiot, is a misperception. That I am a seeker of freedom is at least an objective statement. Because really speaking, you're not seeking anything. But because of the presence of self-ignorance, which is also mithya. Mithya doesn't mean false. Mithya means dependent reality. So because of this mithya, you are thinking, now I am a samsari and now I have become a mumukshu. Whereas you were neither a samsari nor a mumukshu. What were you? You are already jivan mukta. You are living and you are free. Oh, really? Yes, really. But then how did the samsari become a mumukshu? Same way the insect, the little creepy crawly one without wings, became a bee and flew out of the hive. It's not possible. And samsari can never become a mumukshu. The person discovered their mumuksha or discovered the desire for freedom. Why? Because it was already there as a possibility. And so it was already there as a possibility. What made this possibility collapse? What made this possibility come out? Let us look at that. Next one. Yadrisho yasya samskaraha tadrishi tasya vasanaha. Yadrisho yasya samsaraha. Yadrisho yasya samskaraha tadrishi tasya vasana. Samsara samskaravato mumuksha. Samsara samskaravataha mumuksha jayate katham. Samsara samskaravataha mumuksha jayate katham. One more time, since there were some mistakes. Yadrisho yasya samskaraha तादृशी तस्य वासनाः यादृशो यस्य संस्कारः तादृशी तस्य वासनाः संसार संस्कारवतः मुमुक्षा जायते कथम् संसार संस्कारवतः मुमुक्षा जायते कथम्. Yadrishi means in which manner. Tadrishi, in that manner. So Yadrishi, in which manner. Yasya samskaraha. So samskaraha means the ones whose mental formations, mental impressions from childhood, etc. The one whose, mental makeup is in a particular way, that is how their desires are. So the mental makeup of the person is contingent upon the kind of desires that are going to come from the mind. We know this. So if one has a tamasic mind, so all kinds of tamasic desires will come. And what's the example of a tamasic desire? Let me go to sleep. When? All the time. No, but who's going to do work? No, that's okay. I'll just put a little shield in front of my desk so that nobody knows I'm sleeping. And somehow it'll get done. If I don't do it, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will catch up. So this is what is called desire based on tamas. Okay? Then there are rajasic desires. I have to become important. I have to own this company. I have to own that house. I have to own this person. I have to get this. I have to do that. I'm restless. I'm angry. I'm driven. This drive, the drive to do things and the desires coming out of this driven status are called rajasic desires. And then there are sattvic desires. The sattvic desires like help out, reach out, do something to bring some comfort to people who are hurting in the society. Share your, share and care. Share your wealth, share your resources and care to reach out. All these are called sattvic desires, where you don't just live for yourself and a few loved ones. We're actually going out and, sharing something with the community that you would love for them also to have. So these are all sattvic desires. So based on one's samskaras, whether the childhood was excessively rajasic or tamasic, or whether it was sattvic, what do we have? We have that those kinds of samskaras lead to certain kinds of expressions of those desires. So the mental makeup of the person, the first line says, is very, very contingent or intimately connected with the kinds of desires that spew out of the mind of such a person. So yadrishi yasya samskarah tadrishi tasya vasanaha. So their desires are in keeping with their mental impressions and the gunas, etc., certain inhibiting factors. And then what the next line says, we'll just see the meaning. Samsara samskara vatam or vatah. So it's a very interesting pun between samsara and samskara. Samsara samskara vatah mumuksha jayate katham. So for this person, their samskara is samsara. So their mental impression is that this samsara is all, is everything. So therefore, how will that person ever become a mumukshu? We'll find out after a small 5-minute break, because the class is 1.5 hours long. So I just want to give people the opportunity. So I won't say the closing prayer, just take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back. Yeah, the next question, the next, what's its name? Verse. That's what we are looking at. And the question is very pertinent, is that for one whose samskaras, whose upbringing and whose understanding is only samsara, how is moksha even a possibility? How does the person get to that place? Because he gives a logic. The logic is given first. Yadrishi yasya samskarah tadrishi tasya vasana. So there, the samskaras or the mental impressions are connected with desires. So if the mental impressions are all about seeking this, that and everything, so that's what they'll be seeking. They'll be seeking everything except freedom. And so if that is the mental impression, is to keep seeking time-bound things, how will the person, this is what is hidden meaning here, because the vasana means specific desires that go after objects. And that's going to be clarified in the next verse very nicely. So the specific desires that go after objects, and if that is the pravritti, if that is one's tendency is to go after objects, how katham, how on earth is the desire for freedom born? Because the desire for freedom is not about going for objects, it's for going after the subject. So here, if one is always interested in the time bound, how does one get interested in the timeless, which is oneself? How does one even have that possibility of that desire fructifying? So this is another angle of the same question. Very interesting question, because it's also showing that the desire for moksha is not an easy acquisition. It's not easy to cultivate the desire for moksha. Firstly, because moksha is uncultivated, so the desire for moksha is also unproduced, uncultivated. It simply is there. But what he's saying is that for that desire to be free, to manifest itself after competing with 1,000 other time-bound desires, it's a magic. It's very magical. And so that's the whole idea of saying this, because the questions are very loaded. They're not just for example, what is that text? Tattva Bodha questions. Moksha kaha. What is moksha? Moksha, mumuksha ka. That is the question. Mumuksha ka. What is mumuksha? And the answer in the Tattva Bodha is moksha me bhuyaditi ichha. So, may I get moksha? This kind of a desire is called mumuksha. May I be free? This kind of a desire, the desire to be free, is called mumuksha. That's a very, we are talking of Vedanta 001. That's a basic text where all the terminologies are explained. So texts like that, and even to a certain extent, in a more sophisticated version of it, is the Vivek Chudamani. The one who is sick of samsara, and there, moktum ichha mumuksha. So the desire to be free is called mumuksha. It's talked about very elegantly, but still on the level of taking the word mumuksha or desire for freedom for granted, and not really churning that concept of not really getting to this in-depth discussion. And this is very in-depth because the author here is querying how on earth is the person who is interested in the external ever get interested in the self? How on earth is the person who has the samskara, meaning from births, immemorial, from time immemorial, from so many births, the person has been focusing on time-bound gains. What did they do in the last birth? Time-bound gains. What did they do in the birth before that? Time-bound gains. Tick, 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 meaning everything is waiting to explode. Time-bound, 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 time-bound gains, time-bound vasanas, time-bound. Vasana itself means time-bound gains. Here in this context. And then, but Advaita Vasana, the desire for Advaita, the desire for seeing oneself as totally one with everything, non-separate from Bhagavan, that is what is called Advaita Vasana. And, Vivek Chudamani talks that, Durlabham Pumsam Advaita Vasana. It is difficult to have this desire for, in humans, it is very difficult to have the desire for moksha. Very difficult. And so, this is what is talked about. Why? Because when the samskaras are just taking the person away onto the road of time-bound gains, that is that the fact that, or even the possibility that the freedom is just within and I just need to understand it is not available. So he wants to, through these questions, set up a very interesting scenario to talk about how difficult it is for the person who is already free but doesn't know that they are free to even have the desire to see that this freedom is as though blocked by self-ignorance and other factors. That itself is a big, it's a big stumbling block while in samsara. And he explains that in the last question. It comes out very clearly. Let us look at that. Mokshe tu vishayo nasti. Mokshe tu vishayo nasti. Sukham na vishayair vina. Sukham na vishayair vina. Iti mudhadhiyam purvam. Iti mudhadhiyam purvam. Mumukshaiva katham bhavet. Mumukshaiva katham bhavet. Very simple and entertaining verse. Mokshetu, whereas in moksha, vishayo nasti, there is no object. So when I say I have the desire for moksha, is moksha an object? Is it like saying I have a desire for ice cream? I have a desire to have a house. I have a desire to have this particular job. I have a desire to buy this particular, book. Or I have a desire for this television show. I have a desire for this movie. Or I have a desire to take this trip. See, these are all concrete things. For those desires, there is an object. So the subject of desire, which is I, and the object of desire, and what is the object here? The object is something that I can grasp at, and the reason why it's called object is because it is graspable. It is, in other words, it's an objectifiable desire. It is objectifiable by the subject. Without fulfilling those desires, the object, is unattained, and the subject is abject. Abject means dismal. And so, this is what the whole thing is. So, the dependence on the objects, is what is there in all samsaric. This is the samskara of samsara, is the dependence on objects for what? My happiness. But moksha doesn't have an object, and moksha is not an object. Right? You can't go to the shop and buy some moksha. You can't even order it online. You can't say, I have misplaced my moksha. Can you please find it? No, because it's not an object. It is, in fact, the freedom is not an object. It's not a state of mind. It's not an emotion. It is yourself. It is oneself. So this freedom is oneself alone. And so if this freedom is oneself alone, then there is, so the freedom doesn't have an object or is not objectifiable. How are you going to grasp moksha? How are you going to, cut it into pieces and share it with friends? How are you going to buy it? How are you going to smell it? How are you going to look at it? You can't do anything because it is not available for the sense organs to objectify. It is you. Just like you cannot objectify yourself, you cannot objectify your own nature, which is nitya mukta, always free. And he gives a nice contrast. In moksha, there is no object. In moksha, there is no object. In the desire for moksha, there is no object there. Because the desire for moksha, as we discussed earlier, is the desire for knowing the subject. Mokshe tu vishayo nasti. Whereas, the tu is here. Tu means whereas. Whereas, sukham na vishayaihi vina. So this so-called happiness that I am cognizant of, that I am aware of, that I want in my life to reproduce is an object-based happiness. It's not happiness. Nobody says that I'm just happy for no reason. There's always a reason. You try to find out the reason. Oh, my grandchildren are doing very well in school. Okay. So that is the object of the happiness. What is the reason? Oh, Diwali is coming. I'm very happy. So Diwali becomes the object of your happiness. And then what is happening? Oh, something else is happening. What is happening? I'm going on a trip somewhere. So your trip becomes the object of your happiness. Or somebody has invited me to dinner and, they are very good cooks. And so that becomes the object of happiness. Can you think of happiness without an object? No. Can you think of moksha as an object? No. So here's a very interesting, interesting dichotomy. Moksha has no object and happiness, is totally dependent on objects. Happiness cannot be without object and moksha doesn't have, objects. So this is what, the person thinks. So the person is drawing a nice parallel between moksha and vaisheshika, vishaya-based or object-based sukha. So there is no sukha without objects. This is what the person thinks. And there is no object for moksha. So therefore, how does a person who thinks like this can ever be a mumukshu? This is what the second line says. Iti, in this manner, we have to add thinking. Iti, manyamanaha, so thinking in this manner, mudhadhiyam, for the people who are mudhadhihi, the deluded ones whose buddhi is deluded. So for the deluded ones, purvam, for the ones who were like this before, momoksha katham, how can there be a desire for liberation for people who thinks, for such people who thinks that in freedom there is no object, and then in happiness, where happiness cannot remain without objects. So how can such a person be a mumukshu? Very interesting. Because how is someone who is depending on objects for producing their happiness is going to give up those objects? Because you have to give them up, because you have to, even to entertain the thought that you are free, you don't need anything else. You have to even at least mentally give up the connection to the objects, and if not give up, at least suspend that dependency to be able to appreciate this. But if the person is firmly convinced that my happiness lies in all the trips I take and, all these things, then how is that person ever going to see that, that the happiness is centered on oneself, and has no object, because the happiness is actually the subject. Very beautiful. And so these three questions form the bhumika, the prastavana, the introduction or the background for the what is going to follow. So if we look at the questions deeply, we have, three angles through which the concept of mumuksha, or the desire for freedom, has been looked at. So in the first verse we studied, in verse number 10, we have, the idea that the samsara and moksha are two things in the world. See, this is all deluded understandings that are being removed through these verses. So most people think samsara is one thing and moksha is another thing. And in fact, the one is opposed to another. That's why people say, I don't have time for Vedanta class because I'm doing so many things. Vedanta class is moksha, represents moksha, and then the other one, all the other things represent samsara. I am a busy samsari. I have no time for moksha. Why? And what is the mistake in the first question the person is making? Is putting both samsara and moksha on the same footing. Yes, both are mithya, but as I said, it's a little more objective to be a mumukshu rather than to be a samsari. Why? Because at least you're going closer, you're making an attempt to go closer and to understand your nature. So that path is much more, objective than the other path, which is trying to manufacture things that you depend on in time, or to pursue the things that are already there. So this is what the whole thing is. So samsarameva yo veti mokshamargam na veti tasya samsarinaha, that ex-samsari, how did that samsari become a mumukshu? First question. Second, now question of samsara. What is samsara other than the samskara for desires? Because without desire, there is no ignorance. Without desire, there is no karma. Without desire, there is, there is no desire, and without desire, there is no karma. Without karma, there is no karma phala, and so on and so on and so on. So now, what is the situation here? The situation is, your desires are in keeping with your samskaras, in keeping with those mental impressions that we just talked about. And so, for such people who have been deluded by samsara, who have been raised and fed by samsara to thinking that they are dependent on samsara, how will they ever become mumukshu? Slightly different angle. It's a nice corollary. And then finally the whole thing is explained in the last mantra, which is what? Mokshetu vishayo nasti. In moksha is without object, and then what? Samsara is without subject. That's what, because the person is really not in touch with themselves. He's totally dependent on objects and has objectified themselves also, so to speak. And so then iti mudha dhyam, for such deluded thinking, for the people who think that moksha and samsara are on a par, how will they ever become mumukshus? There is a little ironic lament. There's a fine use of irony in these three verses. And then we see the answer to these three verses, not in any particular order, but all of them are taken together and answered together again and again through various angles. Atra uttaram, atrottaram. And let us see the first, answer. Nishkamaya sakama va Nishkamaya sakamava bhaktir Vishnu Shivasya va bhaktir Vishnu Shivasya va saprema hridaye jata saprema hridaye jata mumuksha karanam hitat mumukshakaranam hitad. So, very interesting. So, the first thing he goes to is not anything else. Not like, oh, apata jnanam, and maybe through the dint of his or her own work, they suddenly came across Vedanta books and they started to read. None of that is mentioned here. Goes straight to Bhagavad Anugraha, grace of Bhagavan. Wide the Viveka Chudamani, and what does it say over there? Turlabham Trayame Vaitat Daivanugraha Hetukam. These three things which are difficult to get are completely dependent on Bhagavan's grace. What is that? Manushyatvam Mumukshutvam Mahapurusha Samshrayaha. Looks like he's quoting that in his own way. So, the human birth is difficult to gain because of all the karmic overload of all kinds of things that are waiting there to fructify. That I got a human birth is amazing. And then what? What else is difficult to gain? Mumuksha. They're called mumukshutvam. Same thing. So, mumuksha, or the desire for freedom, is difficult to gain. You can be a human being, but you can't have the desire for, you may not have the desire for freedom. You may be a human being and have the desire for freedom, but you may not know how to go about it and finding a guru, etc. So the last one is Guru Upasadanam or Mahapurusha Samshraya. Not there. Not there. And so, what to do now? So, not there means, we have to see that all these three are dependent upon what is called Bhagavan's grace. And so here he goes straight to bhakti. So bhakti for Vishnu or Shiva, he says, or any kind of Bhagavan, any form or manner of Bhagavan, bhakti is the key for mumuksha. So what is the connection between bhakti and mumuksha? Because saprema mumuksha, saprema hridaye jata, so it makes one into a loving and compassionate person. So when there is bhakti, that means there is love in the heart. So when you have a child, also there is love in the heart. But we are not talking of that. We're talking of a different kind of a love. And what is that love? That love is where the will, the so-called free will, is totally free. In other kinds of expression of love, the will is not free because that love is tainted by duty, obligation, I better do this, or your own vasanas, whatever it is. So some pressures are there in the day-to-day love that is expressed to one's family. But this is a love that's a very different kind of a love. And what is this love? This love is, ahetuna, ahetuna means without any reason, the person has developed a relationship with Bhagavan for no reason. So that's what is called Nishkama Bhakti. For no reason the person has developed a relationship with Bhagavan because they came to know that they were alienated from Bhagavan and they wanted to go back to Bhagavan, and so they developed a relationship with Bhagavan. Or Sakama or some others developed a relationship with Bhagavan because they wanted something in their life. Nothing wrong. It's not that the Nishkama is better than the Sakama. No. They developed a relationship with Bhagavan because they wanted something out of life. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong because, they could have robbed a bank to get whatever they want. They could have offed a few people, but they didn't do any of that. They just said, I'm helpless, I'm hopeless, oh Lord, please help me, oh Goddess, bring me, something, whatever I need. Keep my family safe, whatever it is. So that is called Sakama Bhakti, meaning, Kamena Sahavartate, Kamaihi Sahavartate, the one that is along with all the desires. So a desire-filled bhakti or Nishkama Bhakti, where there is no kama in the heart. Oh Lord, I just want to know who you are, and that's all I want. I just want to be with you, and I just want to forge a relationship of loving bhakti towards you. That's the only object. I'm not doing this so that I'll have wealth, health, happiness, etc. None of those I need. I just need you. So this kind of a bhakti is, or even the other kind of the bhakti, the regular kind that we know, give me this, give me that, keep my family safe, give me lots of money, etc., etc., etc. All this is permitted. But because whether it is sakama or nishkama, both of them, what is that? It is still bhakti. This is just a little frill on the word bhakti, sakama and nishkama. But it is still bhakti. Why? It is saprema hridaye jata. It is a love that spontaneously arises in the heart because one is expanded, because one becomes part of the whole universe. Because one sees Bhagavan manifest as the universe, and in connecting to that universe, one is in touch with that limitlessness, albeit temporarily. One is in touch with the vastness that is Bhagavan. One as though merges in the bhajan and the bhakti in that vastness. And then so there is a temporal suspension, a small suspension of samsara happening for this person who is living, who's living big, who's living an interconnected life with Bhagavan. And so therefore, whether it is sakama or nishkama, the bhakti, brings out loving devotion, which is the fuel for what? Mumuksha. So let us see that more. What does he say here? Yeah. Mumuksha karanam hitat. Here again he can't help himself. It's full of word plays. So this mumuksha karanam hitat, straightforward, and that's how the translation is there on the opposite page. Page. So here he says saprema hridaye jata. So that the loving devotion, which is born in the heart, whether it's desire based or non-desire based, becomes the cause for mumuksha. Karanam bhavet. One meaning. So the loving devotion gained as a result of the practice of bhakti towards the Lord in any of his or her forms becomes the impetus or becomes the reason for mumuksha to rise up from its, from just being a potential, a wasted potential. It's not a wasted potential because mumuksha is coming out. Why? Because the heart has thawed out and allows this mumuksha, the desire for freedom, to be seen. So saprema hridaye jata mumuksha karanam bhavet. First meaning. Second meaning, since both these two A's are there, we can say mumuksha akaranam bhavet. So mumuksha rises without any reason. We can take that meaning also. Both the meanings are possible. So as long as in the presence of loving devotion, when the person's heart is transformed and starts to melt and the person is free of offenses and defensive, and when the chitta shuddhi takes place as a result of bhakti, because that is the reason for bhakti, is chitta shuddhi. The heart is cleared of all the pains, sorrows, fears, etc. And so for that person, mumuksha, the desire the desire for freedom spontaneously arises. Very nice. So both the meanings are permissible. Next one. So the first reason is what? To get, he's giving the reasons why the samsari or how the samsari becomes a mumukshu. So the first one is what? Bhakti. Because of bhakti, what happens is that, the heart melts, and then, without any reason there is mumuksha, or this becomes the cause for mumuksha. Both those interpretations are correct. Okay. So, so that is the first reason. The second reason is given here. कदाचिच्छुद्धभावेन गङ्गातीरे तपः कृतम् कदाचिच्छुद्धभावेन गङ्गातीरे तपः कृतम् तत्पुण्यपरिपाकेन मुमुक्षा जायते सताम् पुण्यपरिपाकेन मुमुक्षा जायते सताम्. So, kadachit, when, shuddha bhavena, at some point. Kadachit doesn't here mean when. It means at some point. At some point what? At some point, this person, who, the person prakritam, the one who is being discussed here, this person did some tapas, followed some religious disciplines and austerities at the banks of the Ganga. Stopped eating this, stopped eating that, stood on one leg, prayed, stepped in the water and stayed there all night. Whatever the person did. So this person, must have done that when some other life. And then what? Tat punya paripakena. So the punya was raw punya, and then paripaka means it slowly ripened, meaning it became ready for fructification. So that punya slowly ripened, and the ripening of that punya, what happens? The punya fell as a fruit called mumuksha into the outstretched hands of this individual, so to speak. So so the person was waiting for some time-bound gain with outstretched hand, give me, give me, give me. And then what fell was a possibility that one is already free of desiring. One is not a wanting person. That reality as though fell into the hands. Because just like when the fruit on the tree is perfectly ripe, it falls. Not these days. These days, what do? They just pick it, when it is few days old, and then they keep it in an incubator and ripen it artificially. We're not talking of that. We're talking of a ripe mango or a guava or something that just falls when it is perfectly ripe. Unhindered, it just falls, and you catch it because you happen to be under the tree, which is the right place at the right time. Sometimes you're under the tree and it's the wrong place at the wrong time. Why? Because you may get some celestial droppings. So, this is what it is. But here, if you're catching a fruit and you just suddenly caught a fruit, you were not expecting to catch it, but because it had ripened and it was there, and then you were standing right underneath, and you easily could, and your hands were not carrying big books and bags and so many things. Your hands were free, so you could easily catch it, didn't even let it hit the ground. And so like this, so this punya of previous lives. What is the punya of previous lives? Whatever good you have done, reaching out actions, and previous study, previous sadhanas, religious disciplines, etc. All those have rectified, and and then the desire for freedom rises. So the first one is what? The first one is a internal condition for the mumuksha to rise. And what is that? One gives up the angry ways, the raga dveshas, and then as a result of deep devotion for Bhagavan, whether it is that devotion is for time-bound gains or timeless gains, because of this deep devotion, the mumuksha arises. Because the person's heart is no longer hardened, the heart has softened enough to allow this mumuksha to be recognized in the heart. And the second reason is what? The second reason is, this is the fruit. Perhaps this desire for freedom, which is manifest in the individuals, is due to what? Previous sadhanas that were done in other lives. So when that sadhana fructified, then it comes down to one, not down, but comes to one in the form of mumuksha. Yeah, and then the third reason is given. How does one become a mumukshu? Vidusham vitaraganam annapanadi sevaya. Vidusham vitaraganam annapanadi sevaya. Sangatya pranayenapi मुमुक्षा कस्मिकी भवेत् संगत्या प्रणवेनापि मुमुक्षा kasmiki bhavet. So Vidusham, scholars, Vitaraganam, sannyasis, and religious scholars and sannyasis, Annapanadi Sevaya, through serving them with food and drink and basically being in attendance gives a lot of punya. And then what? Sangatya, Sangati, meaning in connection with them, forging a connection of loving service towards them, pranayena api sangatya, so forging a loving relationship with them, mumuksha akasmiki bhavet. Akasmat means suddenly, unexpectedly. Akasmiki mumuksha means it is an unexpected mumuksha. It was not that I had the thought, let mumuksha come and then I will go and do this. And mumuksha is going to come at 9 o'clock. No. It is an unplanned, just suddenly it comes as a result of bhakti, as a result of karma yoga, as a result of serving the wise and serving sannyasis. And being with sannyasis, what happens is you imbibe certain things, and then as a result, suddenly you find that you have the desire for freedom. Lot more to be said, but we'll stop here. This is a good stopping point. Next class is on November 18th. Okay? Yeah, and let me, I'm just opening the calendar. I think that's a Saturday, if I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right? Yeah, no, November 18th is a Saturday. So let's see. We can have it on November 19th. Yeah, it looks like I may be traveling. So November November 18th is Saturday. We'll have it on Sunday. So we'll have this class. We'll meet on November the 19th and at our usual Bodhasara time, 9:30 to 12. Okay? Yeah. I hope to be in Eugene for this. Okay? Yeah, this is a very wonderful section. Very, very nice. And we'll dwell upon that a little more as we do next time. Okay? Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yeah, very nice section. Very deep. Beautiful. Yeah, nice to see both of you. Will you be there? November 18th, 19th, you're there? In Eugene? Deshpande's? Oh, good. Fantastic. Very nice. Awesome. So we can use samsara to drive to moksha because it is dukkham, dukkham, dukkham and then little bit of sukham. Sure. Yeah. You can say that. But it's better to see these other reasons because it's talking about God's grace, Bhagavan's grace, and that grace is nothing but earned punya. I mean, he's a very pakka Vedantin here, no mistake. So that grace which is being talked about is nothing but your own punya which is earned, which fructifies in time. More we'll see later. We'll revisit these verses next time. Okay? Om. Thank you.